Hope everybody had a great weekend. For us, I said after the ball game, unique opportunity for our coaches to get on the road. Great to get out and see a lot of people here in state and across our footprint and have an opportunity to watch some recruits. Thought that went really well. This is a big game for us, obviously. First road test for us against a really good football team. Awesome opportunity to recognize Coach Majors and what he did for both programs, but in particular here at Tennessee. His years here as a player, as a coach, the impact that he's had, the legacy that he's left for our program, something that we still see and feel today. So great opportunity there. Really good football team, in all three phases. I've faced them, I think, 4 times. This is the fourth time in 5 years. They're tough, physical, on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and do a really nice job. So be a big test for us. After watching the ball game from the other night, there's some things that were really positive that like what we did in all 3 phases, some things that we got to grow through here really quickly before we go play this Saturday afternoon. So with that, I'll open it up.
Questions? We'll start with Vincent and go to Austin.
Josh, as you know, this year's Pitt team looks a lot different than some of those others that you faced previously because of how much they really want to run the football. How different of a look is that in the way they run, that physicality versus what you might typically see now?
Yeah, the structure of what they do offensively a little bit different. Play with an extra tackle at times last week, but some 12 personnel as well. Running the football, and then their play action shots come off of that. In recent years, with the quarterback that they had, they played in a little bit more spread, and we're pitching it around a little bit more. So the tempo of the ball game will be a little bit different. Defensively, what we're going to see from them will be a little bit different. You got to do a great job of being physical with your front 7 in particular, but really your entire defensive unit. You got to maintain gap integrity. Got to have your eyes in the right place too, because play action is going to come off of it, and you can't give them any chunk plays.
When you went back and watched the film, thoughts on the 2 guys at left tackle, and then defensively, when you went back and watched, were you able to notice, were they able to do some things just to kind of keep you off their quarterback? It seemed like they were rolling the pocket some, getting the ball in the hands as quick as possible. To keep you off from getting home. Yeah,
at the left tackle position, I thought both of them, played well throughout the course of the football game. In protection, you guys saw the structure of what we were seeing, a lot of drop 8. So in some ways, you had a lot of double teams, 2 double teams working up front. So we'll find more out about them in pass pro this week. Obviously, the front that we're going to see from Pittsburgh is one of the better that we'll see throughout the course of the season. Veteran group that plays extremely hard and can get after the quarterback as well. Defensively, as far as just pressure, I thought we were able to apply some pressure. We weren't able to get home, and some of that was the structure of what they were doing, their concepts, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands extremely quickly, and then the protections that they were using. I thought overall up front there were a lot of positive growth that we want to see from them.
Adam, then Ben.
We say the SEC's a line of scrimmage league. When you look at Pitt, their front 7 defensively, their offensive line, how do they compare at the line of scrimmage from what you usually face in the SEC? Yeah,
this is a veteran group that plays extremely hard. They're physically mature. They play with great technique. The structure of their defense, I don't care what personnel grouping or what formation you're playing in, they're going to load it up and play with extra bodies in there. So they make it difficult to run the football. You guys know for us, offensively, it starts with our ability to run the football. So that'll be a pivotal part of the football game.
Josh, when you went back and watched the films, what did you think of Warren Burrell and Christian Charles, their play on Thursday night?
Yeah, those guys got the bulk of the work out on the perimeter. I thought did a really nice job with the mix of our coverages. I thought the 50-50 balls, those guys played it pretty well down the sideline, and liked what I saw from them. Obviously, this week out on the perimeter, we'll see some guys that will be a bigger test for us.
Coach, at wideout, you had a bunch of guys catch balls on Thursday night. What did you feel about that group overall?
Yeah, overall, excited about what they put on video for the first week. The guys that had played were really consistent. Cedric mainly. I thought Jalen did a really nice job while he was in there. Obviously, the first play of the football game, able to get in the end zone. The young guys inside of our program, from Brew McCoy to the guys that were young and maybe have been here for a year, I thought handled themselves in a better way than they had a year ago. You could see some of their growth. There's things within what we're doing that we need to perform at a higher level and more consistent this week in particular. These guys are going to play a bunch of press man out on the outside, and you got to win one-on-ones here.
Staying on the left with Eric, then Ryan.
Josh, I know it was just one game, but when you watch that Pitt defense, kind of what did they do well? What jumps off the tape whenever you're evaluating?
Yeah, they gave up a couple of big runs, just misfit a couple of things, but overall they make it extremely difficult. Their front four are strong, physical, athletic. Their ability to get to the quarterback on normal downs, but then on third downs too, where they'll try to scheme you up. They're veteran on the outside. We've seen these guys, a couple of the last times that we've played them, and it'll be a big test for us offensively.
What's the challenge of facing a quarterback that hasn't played many games in the system, and then what stood out what Slovis did against West Virginia?
Yeah, I think just as much as anything, they have the ability to be different than what they've shown on tape, and that can be in week one or it can be what they've done at a previous stop. I thought he played pretty efficient throughout the course of the evening. For us, we got to be able to adjust during the course of the ball game to what we see, communicate on the sidelines, then communicate those things out on the football field when we see them. We got to be disciplined, and we got to do a great job in the run game. We got to smash it.
Jimmy?
Josh, I watched a lot of ball games over the weekend where there were a number of challenges from coaches, and I wonder, do you have somebody in the press box that alerts you about when you should or shouldn't challenge?
Yeah, you try to in today's game. Sometimes you got to make a judgment call before. Just because the team might be playing with tempo and you got to make a decision beforehand. You're communicating with the side judges as well as far as whether it's being reviewed up top or not.
Have you always done that, try to have somebody in the press box to help you with that?
Absolutely.
Coach, you touched on the receiving core from this past game, but specifically for Jimmy Holiday to be able to come out and have a big game like he did, and you evaluate his performance and were you expecting that kind of a game from him?
Yeah, operated really efficient, got himself lined up, understood coverages on the back end, was able to catch and run a little bit on a perimeter screen. Obviously, the dig route that he's able to score a touchdown on was a big play for him and for us. He's somebody that just continues to get better inside of our system and really just fundamentally having played that position for a very short amount of time and having played quarterback in transition and outside. Saw him show up in special teams too, and that's something they did a year ago, but he's a better player on those units right now than he was at that time, and expect him to continue to grow and to having a huge impact inside of our program.
Brent and Mike.
Coach, I know Kamal Haddon was limited a good bit in fall camp with the injury.
Yeah.
He played a handful of snaps, 15 to 20, I think, on Thursday night with the interception. What did you see out of him, and where do you see that kind of rotation at the cornerback position being with Warren and Charles and Turnage and Kamal?
Yeah, some of that may play out game to game during the course of it, just the flow of the football game, but anticipate all those guys playing a lot of snaps. And Kamal did a really nice job. You mentioned him having a short amount of time in training camp. Since he's come back, he's handled himself and grown in a great way, but he handled himself really mature while he was out and took it upon himself to kind of act like a coach and essentially, give a report card to Coach Martinez on some of the guys during the course of practice. And I think that kept him engaged and understanding what we're doing. Performed really well the other night. Obviously, everybody saw the pick, but I thought he did the things that we were asking him to in some of the trap corner situations, coming up and being physical, and so a lot of positives.
Yeah, Josh, with John Mitchell, do you expect him to be back this week? And what did you think of the way that Aaron Beasley played, and maybe what are the biggest areas he's grown in since last season?
Yeah, I thought the backers as a whole, in particular, the first string of guys that got action, played fast, played physical, had their eyes in the right place, and tackled well. Beasley played extremely well. I thought you could see him, just his growth from a year ago to who he was on the football field on Thursday night. Really liked a lot of what we saw from him. Jawan's ability to be able to be healthy enough to play for us, we'll find out here at the end of the week.
Patrick.
Coach, a couple things on Jabari Small. Looked like he was able to run through maybe more arm tackles in this game. How much can seeing some of the offseason work he did pay off right away help his confidence? And then secondly, I know it's a different year and a different game, but can you take anything from this matchup last season, or is it clean slate?
Yeah, for Jabari, the work that he's put in, that's, physically changing his body to understanding what we're doing, that does give him more confidence. Absolutely does. You saw that play out a little bit on Thursday night, the ability to break some arm tackles. Going to need that consistently throughout the course of the season from him. Last year's ball game, we can take away things. One, personnel. Some of the guys are different, but some of them are the same, so you have a better understanding of who they are against some of our personnel. The other thing is just understanding, the type of game that's going to be played, meaning that they're smart, tough, and competitive, and the little things are going to add up to the big things that show up on the scoreboard. And we got to do a great job of taking care of the football. We got to find a way to create turnovers. Special teams will be a huge part of the football game. Field position is as well, and maximizing our opportunities.
To the back.
Coach, how do you manage the expectations after a season opening where you put up almost 60 points?
Man, last week has nothing to do with this coming week. A year ago has nothing to do with what's going to happen this week. Perform the right way. The way that you do that is you prepare the right way. And so, that's in the film room, making sure that we're gaining an edge on that side of it, prepared for it, practice in a great way, and then be ready to go compete.
Back to Vince and
Josh, you mentioned special teams, two things. What did you see from your special teams in game one?
Yeah, some really good things from our cover units. There's some things that we got to get better at too. Some young guys that performed really well. Some other guys that got to be better in just their fundamentals and technique. First live action, and so it's an opportunity from week one to week two to really grow. That can happen for all of our guys, veterans included, coaches included, but certainly for our young guys.
And you guys have been really complimentary of Dylan Sampson. Did his play and his opportunity back up what you saw and expected in practice?
Yeah, I thought he matched the things that he had been doing in practice. He was able to take that to the football game and translate it. The bright lights, the energy, all of it, the stage wasn't too big for him in any way.
Josh, after the game, Tamir McDonald said he predicted he'd get an interception, and Jacob Hyatt predicted he'd score the first touchdown. I wonder if you
if it comes down to predictions, they should start to do that again.
just wonder if you appreciate their confidence.
Absolutely. But those are two guys great examples of guys that put in work. They put themselves in a position to maximize the opportunities when they present themselves. And they did that on the first two plays, for the offense and for the defense. But expect those guys to continue to do that throughout the course of the year.
Coach Hendon tied for what I believe is the second most consecutive games with a passing touchdown in program history. I believe he's at 13 now. Can you just talk a little bit about what makes him such an aerial threat, and what makes him such an experienced quarterback out there? He's able to find these receivers.
Yeah, he would tell you, and I would tell you too, that happens because of guys out on the perimeter finding a way to get open, because of the guys up front doing a great job in protection. He's someone that has continued to grow just in our understanding of what we're doing, and so his ability to be in the right place so that he's finding the one-on-one and man-to-man or in zone coverage, he's finding the right area to attack, gives him the ability to get it in the playmaker's hands. He's smart, he's competitive, he's consistent in his work habits. Expect that to continue to grow as he's here this year.
Wes, then Eric.
Josh, I think there may have been only one or so tight end targets in the first game. Is that just the way the ball flowed, just one of those things?
Just the way it unfolded during the course of that ball game. You look back at a year ago, there's times where they end up with a bunch of targets, and there's other games where it just doesn't unfold that way as we try to attack, defensive structure and personnel.
Eric?
Josh, were you pleased with your tempo? Pat Narduzzi said on a radio show last night that about 71% of the time you guys are snapping it within 14 seconds. Is that kind of where you want to be?
When we're able to play with tempo, we want to play with tempo. I thought the other night we were pretty efficient in handling that. We had no pre-snap penalties. We were in the right alignment for the most part. I thought guys were able to communicate and get lined up in a really good way for the new guys that came into our program. If you look at it a year ago for the new guys, which was everybody in game one versus this past week, for the new guys that are in our program, drastically different in the way they were able to handle it.
Two more questions, Patrick and Brent.
Coach, with Josh Josephs, it looked like he got in the game pretty early the other night. What did you see from him, and I guess what does it say about him that he got here in June and was already contributing early?
Yeah, fast, long, and explosive on the edge, and I thought he did a really nice job in the reps that he got. That's fitting the run and doing a really good job with it, and also trying to apply some pressure to the quarterback. He's a young guy that's going to continue to grow inside of what we're doing. Expect him to have a big role throughout the course of the year.
Just two things. I think one, you guys rotated at safety probably the least of any of your other defensive positions. Was that just to prevent them from throwing it over your head, or are you still trying to build depth at that spot there in terms of confidence putting guys there? And then secondly, with that, how difficult is defending the middle of the field in college football right now?
Difficult to defend depending on the structure of what you're playing and managing the your scheme against what you're seeing during the course of a football game. Those two guys are probably some of the more mature guys inside of our program. You talk about the two starting safeties, and so we will rotate at those positions, but it won't be 50-50, and they'll see a bulk of the work.
All right, thank you, Coach. Reminder